everyone. Welcome to another Saturday edition. I'm Tammy. I'm the Siberian Wind. I'm glad you made it. Thank you for so much for being here this morning. This is just another let's get busy, get a few things done, hang out, have some good conversation, and just yeah. It's going to be a good Saturday morning. So welcome in. I did put a poll in the chat. Have you eaten breakfast today? So just go ahead and answer that as you come in. That just lets me know that you're here. If you are not a subscriber, if you do want to chat, you do need to hit that subscribe button and let YouTube count up the 5 minutes or so that you can start chatting. So welcome. So I like it. Somebody answered with breakfast. What's that, right? Right? That's kind of my normal thing. Like I eat breakfast every morning, but I don't always eat the normal stuff. Like if I've got leftover pizza, yeah, I might be eating leftover pizza. This morning my husband fixed muffins, so we had muffins, but yeah, it is what it is. It is. So I'm glad you guys are here this morning. We are going to work some more on my client's quilt. And just so you guys can see it, hi Judy, welcome in. Judy has joined the chat, so thank you, lady. All right, so let me see, did I move my blocks? I guess I did. I was going to see, there we go. I know I didn't move them far. I have one of my sample blocks. This is what the block is going to look like once it's done. Overall, it's not the actual colors that my client wanted, but these were just test blocks to see how they came out. And they're going to go in the quilt on point. So they're going to look like this in the quilt. So, how far I've gotten so far is I have gotten all of the pinwheels put together, and I have got the outside pieces put in place. The blue is going in place of the green in my sample, and I did swap where light and dark was, but it won't make a difference. It's going to look fine either way. And then I've also done all of the half pinwheels. So these were complete pinwheels, and I ripped out that seam. So now I have half pinwheels, so I've got half of the outside triangles on those. So we're going to be assembling that today. We're going to be putting more of the triangles on the outside. And then if we have time, I will start putting the sashing on. Where in the sample it is this light color with little bitty floral print here. For my client's quilt, he selected a gray fabric. So this is a gray batik. All of his fabrics are batiks. So I'm going to put that in to the quilt. And I do have a quilting date. So that's why I put in the chat. Let's talk about long arms today. Have you ever used one, or do you have access to use one? I am going to be going up. I do have a long arm, but it's not a digitized long arm. So I would have to manually do my own pattern, and I don't even have a stitch regulator on my long arm. So I really have to take my time and be patient with myself and do a lot of learning to get a little bit better with it. And I'm not quite where I feel comfortable doing a client's quilt on my own long arm. So I am going to go borrow the long arm at one of my local quilt shops. It's about a 2-hour drive to this quilt shop that has the long arm for rent. And she lets you rent it, a digitized long arm, and she'll teach you how to use it, all of that. And so yeah, I'll be able to get both the short and the very, very long version of this quilt done on the digitized long arm. So I'll be going up on the 20th. So what is everyone working on today? It is a wonderful Saturday. It is cool. well, yeah, it is still cool here. It's calm. It's not overly oppressively hot. It's not overly oppressively cold. It's not anything but partly cloudy skies. So it's a good Saturday. It's a very good Saturday. I know I got going a little bit early today, but I was ready. Now, if you do notice, I did not trim off my dog ears from putting these first triangles on. I didn't worry about that. Susie has joined the chat. Welcome in, Susie. Good morning. She's saying good morning, everyone. So I did not worry about trimming those off. If you are using a presser foot with a guide on the side, you'll want to make sure that you trim off dog ears like that because they will get stuck in the machine. When you're putting on setting triangles like this, to make this easy and to make it super simple, I know my triangle is the right size because I've already done all the math. But if you look, I am putting my point directly on that center line, that center seam, and I'm making sure that my raw edge is lined up. And that's all you have to do. That's going to make sure that your triangle is centered every time. And if you do want a pin, you absolutely can. I'm not much of a pinner. You guys barely ever see me using pins. You know, it's a kind of a must technique if you see me using a pen. I am not a person to use pens very often, at least not with quilting. My young student who is learning pajama pants is definitely using pens, probably a lot more than I would need to use, even on clothing. I apologize. Let me put my phone on silent. Russ is now live as well. Awesome. And I just got tagged somewhere about the fact that I do give lessons. So I'll have to go look at that post here in a little bit. I do teach sewing as well as quilting. So if you guys, are ever in the area, if you guys are ever in the Casper, Wyoming area, if there's something you want to learn how to do, if it is sewing related, I can show you how to do it. You might have to give me a little bit of time to prep my resources and my materials, but yeah, I can show you how to do it. I did make a project this week. I did stop everything and make a project. This hoodie up here behind me, I took and I put a zipper in the sleeve of my hoodie, and I did it for both sleeves. So both sleeves have a zipper in the middle of the hoodie sleeve. I had seen all these advertisements for these infusion hoodies, and I really didn't feel like spending $80 on an infusion hoodie. But I do get infusions once every 6 weeks, and with the weather turning a little bit colder, I knew I might need to wear one to go to the infusion center. But while I'm sitting there, I'm only there. My infusion does not take long, guys. My infusion is like 30 minutes long. It's not long at all in, the general scheme of infusions. But I get cold. Like, I'm there, until they start the infusion, I'm burning up. I'm hot. But they start that infusion, and 2 minutes later, I'm freezing. So I wore that hoodie on Thursday for my infusion, and the nurse looked at me and she's like, "Where did you get that?" I said, "I made it." I said, "I saw all these ads for the infusion hoodies, and I decided that I wanted one, but I didn't want to spend $80 and wait for shipping." And she's like, "Oh, I love that. That's like a really good idea." I was like, "Yep." She's like, "I've seen the ones for the ports where they have like zippers up here or whatever, but that's a really cool idea too." I was like, "Right? I don't have a port, so they have to stick me in my arm somewhere." So kind of have to make it easy for myself and for them. Or, well, I don't have to, but I wanted to. I wanted to make it easy. And once the IV was in, I was able to just put my hoodie sleeve back on and kind of hang out and not worry about my arm being cold, not worrying about the rest of me being cold. It really did a lot. So everybody's quiet this morning. I think everybody's waking up still. Did you guys catch Sean this morning? I was not awake yet to catch Sean. It was definitely a little early for me this morning. 6 a.m. for my time is a little early. A little early. He did answer the question that I asked him. No, I tagged him in what ink is your machine wearing? And if you guys have not caught his video yet, he did post and showed what ink his machine is wearing. He has new ink on his machine. A new sticker. Everybody's so quiet. I'm not upset, you guys. Sometimes I struggle figuring out what to say to myself. But yeah, so I stopped Wednesday night, or stopped after my live Tuesday night. I went to Hobby Lobby and got the zippers for the hoodie. I got in the hoodie on Friday, and then got the zippers Tuesday night and installed them Wednesday night, so that I would have the hoodie for Thursday morning. And then Thursday I kind of took a break and took a day. Susie says, no ink on my featherweight. I don't blame you. I'm not sure I would put any ink on my featherweight either if I had one again. I did have a featherweight, but I sold her because I wasn't using her all that much. I wasn't sewing nearly what I'm sewing now. If I had it to do over, I would have kept her. But I don't have it to do over, so that's okay. Some other lucky lady gets to enjoy her. I do want to get another featherweight, but I think what I want to do is I will save up and I will have mine customized with a Galaxy Starry paint job. I think I want a pretty Galaxy paint job. I've seen all the pinks and I've seen the purples, and you know, I like the purple, and I love purple's my color. I love the purple featherweights, don't get me wrong. But I think I want to have the Galaxy. I think I want to have the stars and all of that going onto my machine, because I think that would be so much more fun. Is yours in its original color, Susie? Or did you have yours painted? Or was it painted when you bought it? I know there's so many people who do the customization and such, but I know it's so expensive. And it's well worth it. I'm not, you know, I'm not knocking that. It's just out of my normal price range, so it's a save up kind of thing for me. I think my featherweight, I got her for $500. I think I sold her for about $500. She was fantastic. I had two very good machines. I had Beauty and I had Ricky. And I was using them. And I wasn't traveling a whole lot. So there was no reason for me to hang on to her when I needed to conserve space. So there was no need. And I sew a lot faster on Ricky than I did on my featherweight. But I would like to have another featherweight. That would be my next travel machine, is to have another featherweight. I don't sew as fast. Susie says, love mine. Have 3. They are all original. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, if you ever want to downsize by 1. Oh, she's got 3 featherweights, you guys. And here I am with none. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that the featherweights are taken so such good care of that everybody, really respects what kinds of machines they really are, because they are fantastic little machines. They really are. I will say this, when I did take my featherweight on trips, I would sit there and try to knee lift. Gosh, I would knee lift and then needle up and down, and the lack of a needle threader. There was a lot that, I'm kind of spoiled with my big machines. So I definitely miss when I was sewing with my featherweight. Judy says that she has 3 featherweights as well, one for each granddaughter. Oh, no, that's a good idea. Hang on to them for the granddaughters. That's special. That's very special. Now, have they each picked out which one is theirs? Like, do they all have their own choices? Susie says, I do use a new foot pedal and have a Sew Steady table. Got them at auction. It's awesome. Now, the Sew Steadies, I did have a Sew Steady for one of my earlier Berninas when I sewed on a desk. But since I don't sew on a desk anymore, I think what I would do is I really want to get another Sew Easy table, which is what this table is, so that I can carry one with me and leave one here set up and not have to take it down and carry it with me every time. It's not in my budget yet, but I will be putting it in my budget. And I would get a featherweight, insert for my table, because I feel like that would be probably the best bang for my buck for as much as I would use it. Yeah, that would probably be what I would do. I do have an insert obviously for Beauty, and I have an insert for Ricky. And the inserts would be interchangeable between the tables. Judy says, yes, they each look the same. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I might have to find a featherweight to be able to gift to my stepdaughter. That would be a really nice gift. Susie says that she leaves one at the cabin and one for retreats and classes. Oh, now that's cool. So each of yours has its own purpose. That is awesome. There is a quilt shop that's about an hour and 45 away, or an hour and a half, maybe. I don't think it's 2 hours away. I think it's like an hour and a half or hour and 45 away from here. And they have featherweights. Like, they buy them and fix them up and then resell them with all the accessories that they came with. And so, I know where I could go get one if it was in my budget to go get one. That would be kind of fun to have another one. To go back to having a featherweight to haul around. I definitely would not try to free motion quilt on my featherweight. I will say that. There's just not enough throat room in that little bitty machine to even attempt to free motion. This machine has 10 inches from the needle to the frame. And I even struggled with free motioning here. It was definitely a challenge. It was a challenge. So I am looking forward to, they've closed the Wyoming State Shop Hop, the Quilt Shop Hop, and they will be, everybody's got to get their entries in by the 18th, and then they will start doing drawings. I cannot wait until they start doing the drawings to see what all they are giving away and who all gets what. That's going to be so exciting. So exciting. But yeah, I will be going to go quilt these quilts, because there's 2 of them. I will be going to quilt these on the 20th. I get to go up there and use the digitized long arm for quilting. I'm so excited. So excited. Alright, so Do you guys have any plans for this weekend? I know we're coming off of, Labor Day weekend last weekend. Such a busy weekend. Everybody was busy getting, last minute, vacation stuff in and last minute travel and enjoying the fact that we still have summertime weather in most places. Do you guys have any plans this weekend? Are you just hanging out? You just going to go quilt? You just going to stay inside and enjoy the inside weather? I have no choice for myself. I have to enjoy the inside weather. I have got way too much left. This is going to go so much faster once I get these, triangles on here, because once they're pressed out, then it's just adding the sashing and then the outside square or the outside triangles, and then these guys are actually done, and I just have to square them up. That is all that's left, you guys. Such a simple block. Once you get all the measurements right and you can repeat it, they are so simple. Now, I did have quite a bit of trimming off of these pinwheel sets, but I knew with pinwheels, if I didn't give myself a lot of trimming room, I would end up struggling with getting them to be the right size. Susie says that she's still remodeling kitchen and bathroom, and she's working on wiring today. Oh my goodness. Ooh, no, I am not the electrician. Do not give me the electrician stuff. I've got a funny electrical story that I shouldn't give you any heebie-jeebies. Shouldn't. So, do you guys remember, if you're old enough to remember, you probably will, when you could go to like the local drugstore, or you go to Walmart or Target or wherever, and pick up disposable cameras. So those little, point and shoot, and then you turn the whole camera in to have it developed. Do you guys remember those cameras? And how some of them had flash and some of them didn't? Guys, oh, Glenda is here. Welcome in, Glenda. She says, morning, everyone. Good morning to you. Good morning. So my electrical story involves those reusable cameras, or the disposable cameras. Judy says she remembers them. Susie says, me either. Hubby is the brains, I'm the brawn. Oh, that sounds like kind of like our, relationship, only backwards. I'm the brains, my husband's the brawn. I definitely don't have the strength that he does. And when it comes to designing a project, as long as it's not decorating, then I'm good. If it's decorating, forget it. I'm useless. So when those disposable cameras were big, I was working at Walgreens, and I worked in the photo lab. So I got to take those cameras apart and develop the film. Well, most of the time, when you brought film in, you opened your camera and you took the film spool out and you handed it to us. Well, those disposable cameras, you just handed us the whole camera. Well, even if you used the whole roll of film, those cameras were not rewound. So when you went to open them, they didn't always have the film wound all the way back. So, like, if you open the camera up, you could expose the whole roll of film to light, and you ruin the whole roll of pictures. And it happened. I mean, it happened because those cameras were not manufactured in the best situation. Like, some of them were better than others. Like, there were brands I would tell you not to get if you asked me. but there were definitely some that were better than others. But so when we would take those cameras, in order to make sure that we were opening the camera and getting the film out without exposing your negatives to light, we had two things. We had a black box, we called it the black box, and then we had a dark bag. So basically the same thing, but it was flexible and bigger, and you had lots and lots of room. Well, most of the time we didn't need the black bag. That was for when we were changing out paper, rolls of paper that went into the machine, because we had to do the same thing with paper. You couldn't expose it to light either. And so, sometimes the black bag was out. Sometimes, we just used the box because it was already on the counter. So you'd take the box, you'd open it up, put the camera in, close the box, and then you'd stick your hands through what looks like you're doing some kind of like sterile, like doctory stuff where you're sticking your arms through, and there's like multiple elastic bands. And so we'd pull those elastic bands far up our arms, so there was no chance the light was getting into that box. And so everything that we did was in that black box, or it was in dark. You couldn't see what you were doing. You just had to do it by feel. Well, the cameras with flash, guys, if you opened them the wrong way in that black box, they still had enough of a charge on them that you would end up accidentally touching the circuit board, and you would shock yourself. So sometimes reaching into the black box with one of those disposable cameras was akin to doing one of those Zap toys, like the Zap pen things. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how many times I got zapped by those darn disposable cameras. They were a mess. They were such a mess. I mean, and like I said, some of them were better than others. Like there's some camera brands, that the moment that those cameras came in, it was immediately to the black bag, because I already knew there was no way we were getting the film out safely without being in the black box. And then some of them, it was okay, and like you could predict whether or not it was going to function properly. But some of them you just couldn't. The things that you could see when you were developing somebody's film. If you think about all the pictures that we take now with our camera phones, and that are not developed pictures, they're digital the whole way. Oh, the things we would see from disposable cameras. We would have the people that managed to get their camera to take two pictures at the same time, or they took a picture on top of a picture, or they put a roll of film in somehow that didn't get wound all the way back in, and they took an entire roll of pictures on top of a roll of pictures. Those were some creepy pictures, guys. Talk about like ghost images. Those were interesting. Those were interesting pictures. I mean, we didn't see anything that we weren't supposed to see, and we weren't looking at the people's pictures to, be parts of their lives or nothing. It was just making sure that the pictures came out properly from the negative. And then, of course, we always receive the training of, if you see something that, might be illegal, here's the information of here's the chain of command of how you do this. So we would talk to a manager. Manager would decide, if the images were showing something illegal. If they were, we'd make another copy, and the manager would contact the police. So we did our due diligence. But most of the time, people didn't bring that kind of stuff in, at least not where I worked. So, but those disposable cameras, guys, the little capacitors would zing you. All right. Thankfully, I've never had the machine zing me. We're going to knock on wood because we're going to hope that trend stays. Oh, this is such a quiet morning. I'm loving the quiet mornings. I just hope I'm not boring you guys. Oh, that's always my panic. If you guys ever wonder when the chat gets quiet, that's what I wonder. Whether or not I actually believe it's true, that's what I wonder, is whether or not I'm getting people bored. If you guys are bored, if you need me to show you what I'm doing, like up on the camera, I absolutely will. Just let me know. Let me know. I managed to catch. Who all did I catch yesterday? I caught Donna. I briefly caught Becca. Dinner got ready during Becca's live, so I had to leave Becca's live, and I haven't gone back and finished the replay yet. And who did I catch before that? Oh, I was on Mona's channel yesterday. I almost forgot that I did that. I was over on Mona Did What on her channel. She had Deb, the Hug Mama Quilter, and So Blessed with Jess, and Liana with Pastry Queens Farm Adventures all joined in. That was a fun little live. I wasn't on there for very long. Alright, so we've got some people who ate breakfast this morning. Yay! I ate a couple of muffins this morning. That was my breakfast. I did not wake up early enough to make them. My husband did a fantastic job. He makes sure that there is food available that I don't have to stress about, which is awesome. Joyce is here. She says, hi, Tammy and everyone. Welcome in, Joyce. Welcome in. Oh, FYI, I will be opening, if you guys haven't seen either, or seen or heard, on Tuesday is when I'm going to officially open up the registration for the Zoom retreat at the end of the month. So I will officially open it up then. Joyce, I already know to reach out to you, so you are good. But we will open up that registration on Tuesday and get all you guys registered who want to come and hang out for the Zoom retreat. I'm looking forward to the Zoom retreat. I really am. It's going to be a long weekend of hanging out and sewing and getting stuff done and meeting and greeting and all of that good stuff. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And it's going to be fun, so fun. And I will put this out there. I did get notified that the baby due in November, they are having to start closely watching the mom. They're concerned, they have some medical concerns. I'm not sure all the details. But if you guys do want to pray or add them to your prayers, just pray for the mom and baby to both be happy, healthy, everything else. As of right now, to my knowledge, baby is due in November. I don't know what day in November. They didn't tell me. And they are expecting baby to be a girl. But beyond that, I don't know all the particulars. I just know that they're asking for a few extra pairs to come their way. That, there's no complications with baby or mom. So we will still be making the bobble quilt here in September, and that is going to be the quilt that that baby is going to receive. So it is still going to get made in plenty of time for baby's arrival. So now we just need to put a little bit of extra love and care into it for baby. More than what we were expecting. So It is all part of life, unfortunately, to have struggles and to have worries, right? Oh my gosh, 9 people viewing. You guys, this is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming to hang out with me, because I know you could be over at Russ's channel too, so thank you. I did go wish him good morning before I came over here to get started. So I will go check out his live after our live is done. Let's see, what do we have? What do we have this week? Alright, so Monday. Monday is when I will be starting Andrea's quilt. If I don't get to it sooner, but I don't think I will. I think Monday will still be my right timeline. So Monday I will start cutting on Andrea's quilt. And then you guys will get to see some pieces get assembled Tuesday night. And I'll be getting the quilt assembled by Friday. Can you guys believe it's already going to be 2 quilts in the month so far? It'll be actually 3 quilts, because it'll be these 2 quilt tops and then Andrea's quilt top for pattern testing. Have you guys seen some of her patterns yet? If you don't know who I'm talking about, if you see Mama J Enterprises in any of the chats that you go to from any of the other YouTube content creators, Mama J Enterprises, she is a pattern designer out of Texas, and she is getting patterns uploaded onto her website, and she's got several of us content creators that are getting her patterns in order to test them for her and make sure that they are ready for everyone else. So it is a fabulous time. Thank you, Glenda. She says prayers for Mama and baby. Thank you. I know that they will appreciate that. I know that they will. They've got this baby has 2 healthy big sisters. So she is very much being looked forward to, both by Mama, Daddy, grandparents, and siblings. So she has a big family ready for her to make her arrival when it is safe for her to do so. So, and I don't even know baby's name yet. They haven't told me baby's name. So I don't have a name to go with yet. I'm usually the first one to know the baby's names. At least for my niece and my nephew. When they have kids, they tend to let me know the baby's names in advance. Because they know I'm making a quilt. Thank you, Joy. She says, praying for moms and baby. Thank you. Yeah, I think this quilt is going to be very special. This pattern is called Bobble, and when I originally designed it, I did not design it for a baby. It was just designed as a showpiece. And then when I redid it for the first time, I named it Royalty Bobbles, because the baby that it was going for was going to be named Adelaide, which means royalty. So it got named Royalty Bobbles. So it is a repeated pattern, but it is a fantastic pattern for a little one, and you can definitely size it up to make it something much larger, and you can size it down however you need to. If you need like a table runner or something like that, it's still going to be a little wide, but you know, it is what it is. It's a good size. It's a good size. And I got to get you guys the information so you guys will have that, because that is, oh my gosh, you guys, that's this upcoming Thursday. I have got to get busy. So I've got Andrea's quilt to get started on Monday. And then I've got to get prepped and get you guys the information for Thursday's class. Are you guys excited for another free pattern? My dog is snoring, you guys. I just looked over and he's snoring and stretching at the same time. And then he looked up at me because I was talking about him. I think he thinks it needs to be a lazy Saturday. I think that's what his plan is. Make it a lazy Saturday, Mom, right? Listening while cutting out 5.5-inch flannel squares from scraps. Oh, that sounds like fun, Glenda. It's nice to have enough flannel scraps to do that. All of mine, I think, are cotton. I don't have a lot of flannel. I do have flannel for the back of this baby quilt. It'll be the first one that gets flannel. In my nephew's side, my niece, the quilts that I made this spring got flannel on the back. But this will be the first one on the nephew's side that gets flannel on the back. I'm trying to see. I don't think I don't have any other flannel. I have batiks. I have eyelet, which is not typically a quilting material. I have silk. I have some, not upholstery fabric, but outdoor fabric, like the canvas, the duck cloth stuff. I have some of that. And I have some panels, but I have no flannel. I guess I need to start upping my flannel. Living here in the cold, I need to kind of have a few more flannel options in my arsenal. I did think of another quilt that I need to get put on the roster. I will be doing a donation quilt for one of the local baseball organizations so that they can auction off. So that baseball quilt needs to be on the roster. So I take the time to get it done and get it quilted and planned and all of that. I saw a cool baseball themed quilt, probably this past summer, and when I looked at it, it wasn't actually a quilt. It was a baseball themed flannel or fleece blanket. So it was all printed. I was like, but that would make a really cool quilt. Why not turn it into an actual quilt? So I do have border fabric. I'm looking for it. It's got baseballs, and then it's got baseballs that are painted that are American flag painted. So like they've got the stars and stripes on one side, and then the red and white stripes, or the stars on the blue on one side, and then the red and white stripes on the other side of the baseball. So it's got those peppered in among other baseballs, and it's all line pattern. And so I bought that as a border for it, and it's kind of a cream color. So when I make the baseball quilt, I'm going to have to incorporate the fact that the border is going to be cream. Glenda says, I love flannel, make rag quilts. Oh, that's perfect for rag quilts. Flannel and denim really do a great job because they rag so well. They rag so very well. Joy says, me too, Glenda, right? Flannel's perfect for that. Flannel does a really good job. The last flannel quilt I made was not a rag quilt, though. I took all of my scraps of flannel that I had at the time, and some of them were from making my son pajamas. Some of it was just scraps I'd been given, and I made all of these scrappy blocks, and I pieced them in strips, and then I put black sashing between. Now my black was not flannel. I didn't have any black flannel to do it with, and I was using just what I had in my stash. But I sashed it with black, and then I took a little whatever I had left over, because I had a little bit left over, and I made multiple flannel, crazy squares, kind of. Put it on another piece of black, again, not flannel because I didn't have any more, and appliqued the crazy block onto this black background, and cut out the frame, and then appliqued that, and I turned them as I went, so it's not all in a straight line, and they're not all even. They're intentionally wonky, but they look fantastic. And I made a twin size quilt with that, or maybe the sashing is flannel, but the applique went black is not. I can tell you that for sure. Glenda says that she's made a few with denim. Yeah. When I was making my dogs' rag quilts, I was making them for my dogs because we were looking for something that I could throw in the wash really easily and would keep the dog hair. And rag quilts did fantastic for that. I put flannel on the back and denim on the front, and I managed to use up all my denim scraps that way, or most of my denim scraps, and I used up a lot of my flannel, and then I had flannel left over, and that's when I made the flannel quilt that I made. And it's not a particularly heavy quilt overall, but it is heavier than some of the other quilts, and it holds up so beautifully. It could also be that I heavily quilted it too, but it held up gorgeous. And it's like a twin size. I used to have, and I still have, I have a new one, but I haven't hung it because the calendar tab keeps breaking. And I just now thought about the fact that I have it. I have one of the Quilt the Year calendars where you get a pattern every month. I just wish the tabs had held up, because it would be on my wall if I did. And you get a pattern each month and it's included with the calendar. So if you start in January and you see one that's further on in the year, you can always do that one. But Weeks Ringle and Bill Kerr, I think, are the ones that put it out. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. Rob has joined the chat. He says, "Good morning, everyone. Late to the party again." Oh, no worries. No worries. It's almost lunchtime where you are. I get it. I get it. Aren't these colors gorgeous, Rob? I'm in the process of adding the blue triangles to the outer sides of the pinwheels. Now, I did trim these pinwheels down. As I assembled them initially, these pinwheels would have been 5 inches, and I did trim them down to 4.5. So I had a 1/4 inch to trim off of each side. But that gave me the flexibility to make sure that the pinwheel was as centered as could be, and that all the lines were straight and, falling where they needed to fall. So it gave me a lot of time to work with it. Everybody's saying good morning to Rob. All right, so 40% of you have eaten breakfast. That is awesome. Laura has also joined the chat. She says, "Good morning, Tammy and everyone. Welcome in, Laura." Rob says that he lost track of time. He's hand stitching the binding on his stained glass quilt. Oh my gosh. That's exciting. I cannot hand stitch my binding right now, even if I wanted to. My wrist will not let me. So I've got all these full pinwheels, but I had to take pinwheels apart to make the half pinwheels. And so I had to take these half square triangle pieces apart, and I had a little bit of ripping to do in the center as well. And it was everything I could do to hold the fabrics to be able to rip. So I will let you hand sew my binding on, Rob. You want to come out here and come hand sew? I will let you. The weather's still good up here, so, you know. The doggos won't mind a road trip, will they? Yeah, I know. I'm silly. I'm very silly. Alright. So there's a total of 84 full pinwheels, and there's a total of 48 half pinwheels. So half blocks is 48, total, the big ones is 84. So these quilts are not going to be very tall, but they're going to be very long. And the blocks finish at 7.5 inches. So my sashing has to be cut 8 inches because these blocks will be trimmed down to 8 inches. And once you sew them in, they finish at 7.5. So if you guys want to do the math, you are more than welcome to. I do still have to figure out my outside sashing because I did do a fancy finish on the outside sashing. So we'll have a little bit of testing work to do on that. But I don't think it's going to be super bad. We're just going to have to see. We're going to see. We're going to see. But I have today and tomorrow to finish this. So I do have kind of like a time frame where I have to get it done by, because I have too many other projects coming up. If you guys have not already, oh nope, I haven't even put the links up, you guys. That's something I need to do this afternoon. I will put the links up this afternoon for the Bobble Quilt free series, and I will get the measurements into the chat, or well, into the description, so that way when I issue the information on Tuesday, you guys can have a reference to go back to. So if you guys do want to participate in the free quilt, you are more than welcome to do so. I meant to go ahead and pull out my sample, but it is behind the store, and I've got to move my machine to get into that closet. So it is not quite there yet. I need to just probably take the door off the hinges so I don't have to worry about opening and closing the door, but I think it looks pretty with the door closed. So, like, nobody sees my mess that's back there, because it's a mess. I've got a mess going on. So, I'm so looking forward to long arming these, you guys. This is going to be so pretty. My client is going to have to, be able to chat with me via text and seeing the pictures and all of that. And we've still got to determine what backing he wants and what binding he wants. But I told him that I wasn't going to have him pick anything until he sees the quilt tops. So between tomorrow getting done and the 20th, I have to get him on board to go look at backing and binding and make some choices. So it's going to be, there's going to be some bold sashing on this, you guys. Oh gosh, I can't, yeah, I'd have to get up to go get it. The sashing is going to be brown, and the cornerstones in the sashing are going to be this dark jewel tone blue. So it's not this blue, it is a dark blue. So stunning, so very stunning. Alright, so when you are doing the half pinwheels, if you are trying to put setting triangles on something like that, I have a center to go with. This is my center. This line right here is halfway between the sides. So what I do is I press my triangle, just finger press it, And then I have a line to work with to put on that center line. And that's how I line up my triangles for the half units. So in case you guys wonder, that's how I do it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clip these apart. That way I have them ready for the next step once I get done with these triangles, because these triangles only need one setting triangle added per. What is everybody else working on? I know Susie is working on remodeling, and then Rob is working on hand sewing his binding on his stained glass quilt. What has everyone else got going on today? And Laura, I hope you are still resting. Recovery is a long process, no matter what kind of recovery it is. Recovery takes some time. And still, we only have 40% of people who've eaten breakfast this morning. What a shame. Breakfast is the most important meal. Susie says, sewing room is a mess. It's in the basement, and plumbing and wiring for upstairs remodeling is above it. Long arm is covered with a tarp and sawdust and wood shavings everywhere. Oh my gosh. I would be an absolute nervous wreck, Susie. Absolute wreck. That, I would have to have all your fabric in totes, like plastic totes, to protect it from the sawdust? Because that would be my next thing, is having to rewash every last piece of my yardage. Oh, I would be panicked. You have got nerves of steel. You've got nerves of steel to be putting up with that. Oh. I would have to... Oh, I don't think tarp would do it for me. I think I would have to, like, carry it out. She says yes. All the fabric is in plastic totes. Good. Protect it from that sawdust. I would be complete nervous wreck. Absolute nervous wreck. We had a water leak in the home that we lived in Alabama before we moved up here. It was a brand new home, and the manufacturer, the builders, did not install a vent fan correctly in the roof, and every time it rained, there was water leaking down. And it was also the hosing for the air conditioning unit, so every time it condensated, there was water coming down from that as well. And it was in the room next to my studio, but guys, that mold, no, I couldn't do it. Laura says that she has been resting. She does want to go to an open house today at a quilt shop near her. They're demonstrating the Innova long arm machines. Oh, that'd be exciting. Yeah, definitely plan to go and take a chair as soon as you get there. Just go ahead and go, hey, look, I'm still recovering from surgery. You know, even if it's not surgery, if it was just, hospitalization, whatever. Just say, I'm recovering from surgery. Can I have a chair? I don't know of any quilter who would be discriminatory if you go, hey, look, I need an extra help. I need an extra helping hand. Oh, I would love that. I think my long arm lady, my quilt shop lady, is going to be putting me back on the Amara that I was on. So I used a Handy Quilter Amara digitized long arm when I did my last long arm quilting at a shop. And I'm going back to that same shop to quilt these two quilts. And so she's probably going to put me back on that machine. But I'm not going until the 20th. So I have until the 20th to get with my client. And we can pick out the backing and all of that. And be ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll real quick. Let's see what the results were. All right, 30% said breakfast. What's that? 30% said no, and 40% said yes to eating breakfast. That is awesome. Laura says, I would love to have a long arm, but really haven't done much research yet. The Amara is also one I've been considering. I will say this, and I'm a fast learner, so I will put that out there. I've used a long arm before this. Like, this is not my first time using a long arm, but it was not hard for me to make the adjustments that I needed to make to learn how to use all the digitized software. So it's very much, once you do a couple of the things that you need to do, like you do, steps XYZ, etc., then you're repeating steps XYZ. It's like just repeating those steps throughout the entire quilt. And especially if you do a lot of quilts, it does pay off quickly, in my opinion. It's just whether or not you're charging other people for your quilts as to whether or not they're paying you for it. And that's where I would have to, I would have to make probably 23 quilts that are the caliber of what I'm doing right now, and the cost of what I'm doing right now, to probably even come close to covering the majority of the cost of a long arm. So if I did 2 of these a month for a year, that would cover it. But I don't have that many clients yet, so it's kind of hard to justify it. Because I will have expenses that are going into the cost. So there is that. But my client will be gone most of October, so I kind of want to try to get this done before my client leaves for October, because I want this done so he has it for Christmas. His family tends to come over to his place for New Year's, but I want him to have it in time for Christmas, so between Christmas and New Year's, he has some time to enjoy it before his family is there, and, all of that. All of the good stuff, right? Laura says the software doesn't worry me so much because my husband is a software consultant, and I'm sure it'd be super easy for him to figure it out. Yeah, it actually, I don't think it'll even be hard for you to figure it out. You're on here using YouTube. It's not that hard. It really is not. The biggest challenge is just getting into the routines. So, like, when you advance the quilt, you want to go set your boundaries. So you set, all of your bounds for where your quilt is going to go. And she was clicking through everything like it was, super easy. So, I think I can figure some of that out. She's going to be there to walk me through again. Like, I'm going to have her, pull me, 2 patterns, maybe 3, and I'm going to send pictures to my client and go, look, these are our options. Which do you like best? Here is my recommendation. And, of course, I'm going to get some feedback from him when we go to pick backing as to how densely quilted he wants it, what kind of designs he's looking for, and then I will pick from there. So, and then we'll also discuss thread color and all of that prior to me going up to go quilt. So that way, when it comes time to quilt, I don't have to ask him a whole lot of things. Susie says, my first nulting didn't have stitch regulators, so it was a real learning experience. Upgraded to a nulting with stitch regulator. No computer stuff yet. Use pantographs. Yeah. My long arm that I have right now does not have stitch regulator, and it is also not on a frame, so pantographs I would have to draw on the quilt, and then still hand move it. My problem is, during the last quilt that I was working on quilting, I had a lot of skip stitches, and it really became a problem after a bit. And I changed the needle, rethreaded, new bobbin. Like, I mean, I tried everything. I cleaned everything. Like, it was not anything that I was doing intentionally, but it was determined to skip some stitches. And by the time I was, going back and fixing where it skipped stitches, I've got so much to rip out of that quilt at this point in order to make it presentable. I'm just not happy with the quilting in it. And it's sitting. I have not ripped it yet. I do not have the heart to rip it yet. I may just finish quilting it as is and donate it. It's kind of heartbreaking because I really had high hopes for that quilt. It was going to be my show quilt for this year, and it's not. It is not that at all. I mean, the quilting can make or break your quilt, and it's breaking that one pretty hard, in my opinion. So I may end up ripping all the quilting out of it, just so I can start over and do something different on it, because obviously what I was doing isn't going to work because my machine is determined not to work. But now that I've got it on the Cutie frame, I haven't tried it using the Cutie frame yet. So that's the next thing, is to try it using the Cutie frame and see if that makes a huge difference. And if it doesn't, then it's going to be looking like, I mean, I can pay to have it serviced, but I don't think there's a need to have it serviced. Like, I don't think it needs servicing. I don't think that's the problem. But I need to know why and how I'm having these constant issues with it. Like, I'm not happy with what I'm doing with it. So I definitely need to slow down and take some time with it. And I think I'm going to have to do that just kind of over Christmas. So like, I've got one quilt that's going to be finished on Beauty. And then I really need to finish that one. And then I've got one other. So I've got two that have to be finished on the long arm. The baby quilt will probably be quilted on this guy, but I don't know yet. I do have a stitch regulator on Beauty, so I can do an all over pattern on Beauty instead if I want to. Now, my Irish chain quilt that I did, the baby quilt that I did, that one I quilted on the long arm. So I don't know. I mean, I may still try it. I may see if I can get it to cooperate. See if I can get it to like me. I want it to like me. I need it to like me, right? That's the next thing, is I need it to like me. I definitely do. Definitely do. Yeah, one of the recommendations was that if I did manage to get a long arm with digitizing, because there's not a whole lot of services here in Casper that I'm aware of where you can rent a long arm here. So I'm having to travel 2 hours to go rent a long arm. But renting out my services, like renting out the long arm to local quilters, could help me pay for it a little bit faster. Because that would definitely be something I would be willing to do. Because somebody else could be quilting on it while I'm sewing. But I don't really have the room for it. We would have to... I think we'd have to move our living room into our dining room. And then my husband's office would have to come into here. Because he needs an office. He really does. And then my studio would have to go out into the living room. Which would be fantastic for, space. Because I would have plenty of space. But it's a lot of stuff to move. I've moved out there once. I really don't want to do it again. I really don't. Yeah, if I got a long arm, I think I'd have to move out there because the only space it would fit in would be out in the living room. And then it would probably have to go where my husband's office is. And he needs an office, so my whole studio would have to go out there. Actually, I think we might be able to share the living room. It might be my studio. My long arm and my sewing machine right next to each other. Now I might be able to pet my long arm like sitting right here while I'm sitting here. That would probably be what I'd have to do. That would probably be what I'd have to do. I just don't have the money to do it right now. Don't have the money. Don't have the space either. Deb is here. Good morning, Tammy, she says. Good morning, Deb. Welcome, welcome. Oh, and you guys, if you're here in the chat and you have a channel, do exclamation selfie, and Nightbot will drop a link in there for us so that your channel gets a little bit of extra love. You are more than welcome to put your link in by doing exclamation selfie. I always forget, but it's almost always active on my channel. If you come in and try it on my channel and it doesn't work, just go, hey Tammy, by the way, and I will quickly fix it for us. Nightbot tends to like me. Nightbot tends to like me. Oh, you're fine. She says, sorry, I'm late. No, you're fine, Deb. Susie says when she upgraded, she got a 12-foot table instead of 14-foot. Really don't miss the extra 2 feet. Love the extra space. I hear ya. I do want a 14-foot. Because I am regularly doing really big quilts. Like, I want that space. And having a 14-foot would set me apart. Because a lot of people don't have the 14-foot frames. So, for somebody who can't do because they've only got a 12-foot frame at home, being able to do the 14-foot would make a huge difference. I would absolutely love to have a 14-foot. It would be fantastic. My dog is adjusting. Ah, good morning, Rayanne. She says, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Welcome in. We are working on my client's quilt this morning. And I've already put the triangles on half of, or 3/4 of the full pinwheel block. So I'll be coming back and putting those on here in just a minute. But I am adding on the extra triangles to the half units right now. Judy says that she has a 12-foot frame. Yeah, I've got a quilt that is 101 inches by 101 inches. So by the time we put it on a 12-foot frame, we are at the limits. Because, you can't quilt all the way to the edge of the 12. So that's it's testing the limits of a 12-foot frame. So when I go up to go quilt my client's quilts, I may go ahead and take my 101-inch quilt and spend the time there to go ahead and quilt it while I'm there, depending on how I'm feeling. We'll see how I'm doing. But like now that I've gone up there and gone and quilted a quilt before, I kind of know a little bit more about what to expect. And I know a lot more of what I'm doing. So I don't think I'm going to be as panicked about, getting everything right. When I roll the quilt, I think I'll have her come help me double check, make sure I've got everything set. And then I know how to set my boundaries and all of that. So it's just going to be a matter of like the first round or two getting back into the groove. and then going from there. And what I'm going to have to do with my client's quilt and the way I'm going to do it, I've already decided how I'm going to do it. I am going to sew a leader between the two quilts because, well, I think I am. I think I'm going to sew a leader between the two quilts. So it is one incredibly long quilt. One side of one quilt is already 156 inches. The other one will be 76. So granted, it's 200 inches or over 200 inches, but it's not very wide. But the 156 is still going to be larger than the 14-foot frame. So I'm not going to be able to load the quilt sideways no matter what. Like, that's not even going to be an option. But the quilt's only going to be 3 to 4 feet wide. So it's not going to be very wide at all. So I think I'm going to be able to use, I'll have to look at the full measurements, and I don't have them over here with me. They're somewhere around. But the quilt is not very tall, it's just very long. So each pass is not going to take very long at all. It's just going to be a lot of passes. And, you know, your passes will get smaller and smaller as you get more quilt rolled up. But that means I can do one continuous piece of fabric on the front and one continuous piece of fabric on the back and one continuous piece of batting, and just do it that way. And Mitzi says that she says hello, well, welcome in. She says she has cutting to do. Well, listen while I cut. Absolutely, Mitzi. I understand. I've had to do that a lot lately. I've had to just listen into people's channels and not be chatty because I have been doing a lot of other stuff, whether it's sewing or cutting or whatever. So I completely understand. So yeah, tomorrow I should be able to get all the sashing in place. If I don't get to it today, I think I'm going to be able to get to my sashing today. This is going to be a long day. I'm going to be in my studio all day today and all day tomorrow. And then Monday I will be starting cutting on Andrea's quilt. And I can't show you guys the measurements, but I can show you the assembly. And so that's what I will be showing you guys, is the assembly for one of Andrea's patterns. Jess is working on the same one. Let's see. Judy says it's going to, build up in the neck of the long arm. I know. Depending on how densely he wants it quilted will also determine how thick it builds up. My one thing I can do is, let's say I quilt the 156 inch one first, but I just do it as a continuous. Once I get that 156 past the quilting, like I get into where I'm quilting the 76 inch one, I could actually trim off the 156 and roll it off the machine and just continue on with the pattern, as long as I've got the other one already on there and rolled in. That way I don't have to move any of my design. That's kind of what I'm thinking of, is that I don't want to move. Like, once I set it up with the design that I'm going to do and, you know, the boundaries of what I'm going to do or whatever, it would be easier for me to just continually quilt that same design, because they both need to match. They really do. And it'll be a little bit less work to just unroll off the sorry guys, it'll be a little bit easier, I'm thinking in my head, to roll off what I've done and just reattach just the part that I've started quilting on the bottom part. Like, once I get to where it could start rolling up on the long arm, or rolling up on the take up. I could do that, is like unroll the 156 inch side, and then I'll have more room for quilting that 76, even though it's not going to take nearly as long. So I will go ahead and sew a leader between the two quilts once I get them ready to go take up there, and I will do the same for the backing. Like, I'm just going to do continuous backing for the whole thing, and then I can trim it once I'm there. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think it's what I'm going to do. My my quilting lady messaged me when I was asking her this morning. I have, my arm hurting. She actually thinks that she's torn her biceps tendon. So we're both kind of one-armed wonders right now. So it's going to be all kinds of fun. Katie has joined the chat. Welcome in, Katie. She says hello, and she's saying hi to everybody. Welcome, welcome. You can do exclamation selfie here, Katie. I do have it turned on today. We are hanging out and working on my client's quilt. I hear that you are working on Andrea's today. What time are you going live Mountain Time? Do you know? Do you know what time my time you're going live? Because I know Andrea was trying to make sure she didn't miss your live. I was like, nope, I'm not doing your quilt today. Your quilt's going to have to wait until Monday. I can't even start until Monday. Rayanne says, you know that as you roll your quilt that you lose throat space. I know. And that's why I was thinking that once I get the 156 inch quilt done, and then I get enough of the 76 one started that I can roll it up. Like if I do in a long enough leader, that'll help as well. But once I can roll that leader up onto the take-up rail, then I could unroll everything, unroll the take-up roll, and cut off the section that is the 156 inch quilt, and then just continue on with the smaller one. Let's see, 2 p.m. Central Mountain Time. Okay, that works. That Central Mountain Time throws me because I always see it as Mountain Standard Time. So I don't know why they don't use the same layer or the same wording for it every time. So 2 p.m. Katie will be going 2 p.m. my time, you guys. Katie will be going live, and she will be working on one of Andrea's quilts as well. So if you guys have not seen any of Andrea's work yet, Andrea is Mama J Enterprises in a lot of the group chats. So if you see Mama J Enterprises in the chats, that is Andrea. She is based out of Texas, and she is designing quilt patterns. She has a Christmas gnome one coming up super soon. I don't know if you are, Katie. I don't know if you're writing it wrong or if it's just, I think some people do label it as Central Mountain Time, but I don't know why. But every time that I see it locally, it comes out Mountain Standard Time, which is MST. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. So when I look at it, when I see the M, I usually know that we're talking about the right time. I figured it out. like I said, I don't know how it's supposed to be. I grew up in Central Standard Time, which is CST. So I don't know. I didn't grow up in this time zone, so I don't know what the standard was supposed to be. I will accept it however it comes across. We'll figure it out. We are a team. We are a team. We are a team. Because there's no I in team. I would have to reposition my design after I take the quilt apart off. That's kind of the thing. That's why I don't want to... That's why I want to, I know I'm going to have to do my boundaries each time that I move it, because I did that with the last one that I went and did. Like, she had me, like, marking the boundaries. So, I mean, if I get there and she says that I don't need to do it that way, I'll just cut the leader in half. It's fine. But it'll be prepped so we can do it that way when it comes down to it. Because I don't mind quilting across the leader. That was my whole intent, as I'll just quilt across the leader, and, you know, I'll take that part out because it's going to be cut off in binding anyway. But it wasn't going to move a whole lot because it's already going to be on the roll-up rail. Like, it's already going to be on the quilt rail. It's just not going to be on the take-up. So that's kind of what I was trying to hope to do, because I don't want to do two different designs. Like, I don't want to do two different quilts. But then again, I don't want to have to reposition a whole bunch of extra. So I'm going to do it as a learning experience, one way or the other. We're going to see how it works. And when we quilted this last one, I still had quite a bit of room, and that was the batting and minky quilt, and I still had quite a bit of room to quilt with. And even if I have to do extra take-ups, you know, like a whole lot of extra take-ups, that's fine. So, I don't know. We will see. We will see. We will see. We'll see. You guys will get to hear as to what I ended up doing. I won't be able to video live because there will be probably customers in the store when I'm there, because it'll be on a Friday. Last time I was there on a Monday when they're normally closed. They rent out the long arm on Mondays as well. But yeah, so we will see what comes of it. We'll see what I get told to do. I'm one of those bold people that tries the weird stuff. So, you know, who do you know that has made 156-inch long quilts? Plus a 76-inch long quilt. Well, you officially know one. I'm going to let her tell me basically what she wants me to do, because she's the one who has the long arm. And it's her shop, so if she says the machine will do fine, then we'll do fine. If she says the machine won't like it, we won't do it. Yeah. It's going to work, one way or the other. I just really didn't want to have to put the design in a second time, because I really need to take another quilt with me. I need to take my 101-inch quilt with me and go ahead and quilt it while I'm there too, so it's done. Because I really need to get some of these quilts going. I've got too many quilts going, guys. I have 3 that are layered to quilts that have not been touched yet. I've got 2 that are layered to quilt. 1 that I'm going to have to rip a whole bunch of quilting stitches out of. The other that I need to finish walking foot quilting. So it's going to take Beauty to finish that. And then I've got a quilt top that is not even layered with actually 2 quilt tops that are not even layered with anything that need to be layered and quilted as well. So, yeah, I got quite a few. One that needs to be done by the 16th, hopefully. So, that one I'm going to have to do here at the house. Oh my gosh, you guys. I'm going to get hives getting stressed. You know that, right? I put so much on my plate. But there is nothing like the feeling of touching fabric, right? Who is with me? Who loves touching fabric and does not let the fact that you got too much to do with that fabric stress you out? Oh my gosh. And that is not even getting ready for next year. That is not even getting ready for November. or October. I've got so much stuff coming up in October too. Oh my gosh, guys. So much stuff. I think Monday, while I am cutting fabric for Andrea's quilt, I will probably have beauty set up and embroidering more of Halloween Town. And I still have to get this 16-month quilt off my wall. It is not, I have not done anything with it. I've not squared up the blocks. I have not made them all the same size. I've not cut sashing. I've not done anything. So when we come to the retreat at the end of the month, that is probably what I'm going to be working on, is getting that off my wall if I haven't already done so. You guys will get to see the real, like, behind the scenes what I do when you guys aren't watching. That is what the retreat is going to do. We're going to do the behind the scenes stuff. So I will open that registration up on Tuesday. So if you guys are interested in attending the Zoom retreat, you do have to be a subscriber that has chatted in the chat sometime. Like, I have to be able to recognize your name. If you've not chatted in the chat, even if you are a subscriber, I'm not sure. Like, I think I want it to be people who are chatting. You don't have to chat a whole lot. Like, I'm not going to expect everybody to chat, like, excessively. But if I don't recognize your name, then you hadn't been participating in my chats. So we won't have you in. But if you are a subscriber and you participate in the chats, you will be eligible to participate in the Zoom retreat. There is no fee for the Zoom retreat, so don't worry about cost. It is not going to cost you guys anything for this retreat. This is our inaugural first retreat. There's no way I would charge for it anyway, because I want to test the waters, see how it works for us, and see if it is a good plan going forward. But the last weekend of September is the Zoom retreat, you guys. Are you excited? Are you excited? You get to, like, come hang out and see each other, talk to each other. You know, you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want your camera on. I understand. If you feel comfortable putting your camera on, you absolutely can. It is not going to be broadcast on YouTube. No part of the Zoom will be broadcast on YouTube. So you don't have to worry about your face going public. It is just with other subscribers here from the channel. And you can stop in, you can hang out, leave, come back, all of that good stuff. We will make it happen. We will make it happen. All right. Sherry, you're in my quilting world. She says, new to your channel. Welcome in, Sherry. Now, is it cherry or sherry? Is it a sh or a ch sound? Or what would you like me to call you? We'll put it that way. What would you like me to call you? Welcome, by the way. Judy says, I'm excited. Hopefully Deb S. will participate. She'll make us laugh. Yes, she will. Absolutely. Yeah, Deb, you were being called upon to be the comedic relief. You are called upon. Judy is calling you out. Everybody's saying good morning. And we're welcoming our newcomer to the chat. We are almost done with these half ones, you guys. This is all I got left. Sh sound. Okay, so Sherry. Awesome. Yay. Well, welcome. I know that we've had a few new subscribers come in over the last few days. We are almost at that 500 to be monetized. Where do I go to long arm, says Susie. There is a quilt shop in Gillette named Heirlooms by Design. And she does rent out the long arms there. I think it's $20 an hour, I think is what I pay. And she teaches you how to use the long arm as part of the, it's kind of like a class. It's $20 for the long arm per hour, and then I think it's $5 per bobbin. So the last quilt that I did, it was $60 plus plus my bobbins, something like that. So it was like 3 hours of quilting. But I had a long learning curve because it was my first one doing the Amara quilting. So I don't expect that these will take me that much longer. Just because, I mean, the biggest part of that is going to be how many times I have to roll it. But the quilting itself isn't going to take very long at all. And I don't think I'm going to go through a whole lot of bobbins with it. I might, but I don't think I will. So that's about a 2-hour, 15-minute drive from here. Thereabouts anyway. Like that's about what I spend time-wise on the road to get there. And then, of course, 2 hours back. So, 4 hours, 4.5 hours on the road to go quilt, plus the time there. How do I sign up for the retreat? I was away from the computer when you said. We will actually be doing sign-ups starting on Tuesday. I will open the registration up on Tuesday. So, Tuesday night, you will get the information about how to register. So, yeah, it is not open yet. You have not missed any. You've not missed much. Yeah, I will have a registration form set up. We have to email her Tuesday, Deb. Yep, it'll kind of be an email. I'm actually going to do a form, so all you guys have to do is click the link, fill in the information, and then you will be registered. And I will send confirmations out and all of that. And we will do a reminder before the Zoom, a couple of reminders or so. So you'll get a couple of emails from me. I'm not going to do texts because that's a lot of time to do texts. But we will do some emails. So just make sure you've got an email address that you want to use ready for Tuesday night, and you'll be good to go. And it won't be first come, first serve, I promise. Let's see. Deb says I have to keep my fans happy. Yes, you do, says Judy. And I was about to say the same thing. Sherry says, sounds great, right? Right. So the Zoom retreat is going to be where you can pop in, come hang out. You can sew, you can quilt, you can just hang out and chat. But, if you want to talk, you do need to have a microphone. If you want to do video, you will need to have a camera source that you can connect to the Zoom with. A lot of people will probably be using their phones or their tablets, so you'll have camera and microphone built in. You do not necessarily have to have your camera on. I know some people that are going to be a little bit leery of having their faces available, and I can completely understand. It is not going to be live on YouTube for that reason. So I know that a lot of people can be paranoid about putting their faces out there. They might have personal issues going on where, putting their face out there is kind of a bad idea. So we're not going to do it live on YouTube. That would be a much shorter list. It won't be a pop in and pop out. But the retreat will be all just on the Zoom platform. And I'm going to open it up an hour after I get off on Saturday morning off of my live. So my live Saturday morning at the 28th will only be an hour. I mean, we're over an hour now. Don't panic. I got time. But Saturday the 28th, my live will only be an hour long. Then I'm going to take an hour-long break, and then we will open up the Zoom retreat. Then we will close it an hour before my Sunday live for Sunday night. So my live on Sunday night starts at 8 p.m. So we will close the Zoom retreat at 7 p.m. to allow myself a little bit of time to freshen up, get food, all of that kind of stuff before my live at 8. Because my live on Sunday night is almost always 2 hours. So we do a long Sunday night. Saturdays is usually an hour. Sometimes, obviously, like today, we're running over, and that's perfectly fine with me. I've got the time. We're not in a rush. And my next step after this is pressing. So we're just trying to get through this stack of triangles, and we are putting the last triangles now on the full pinwheels. So now they will be on point themselves in their little boxes. And I will probably trim these dog ears, so don't panic about the dog ears. I'm going to trim the fabric dog ears, not my puppy's dog ears. He does not like his dog ears trimmed. Susie says that she's been to the heirloom shop. She says it's a nice shop. Yes, it is. It is. You know, I bought my shop hop block there, and I went there and quilted. But you know, I actually have not been there to actually shop her fabric. It's really sad. I need to shop her fabric while I'm there. I just don't have any budget for it right now. But she is definitely getting some free publicity off of me for this. So all my locals that are in Wyoming, you guys know it is, you know, we only have 24 quilt shops in the state right now that signed up for the shop hop this summer. One of those is already closing. If you did not know, the one in Laramie is closing in November. So they will be closing their doors and not reopening. My spidey senses have been informed that the store in Pinedale, the building is for sale. So we are not sure if that store is going to be able to remain. We don't know if it's been sold. We don't know if it has been sold, if the quilt shop is going to be able to remain there in their current location. And if they do close, we don't know what they're going to do. Let's see. The shop in Cody, the lady who runs it had to reduce her hours. So she is only open Monday through Thursday every week. So we've been hit hard with some quilt shop closings in the state. Here in Casper, we had 3 quilt shops as of last summer. Or well, as of this winter, we had 3 quilt shops. We are currently down to 1. There is 1 local quilt shop here in Casper. That's where all of this fabric came from, all of these beautiful batiks. My client wanted to make sure to pay them a visit and provide them with some funding. His late wife was a quilter, so he knew about the shop and wanted to help support the shop with, you know, when we bought fabric for his quilts. So I was like, absolutely. We absolutely can do that. That is not a problem. We will support local whenever possible. There's, let's see, I'm trying to think of where else. I'm really looking forward to getting with the lady that runs the shop in Rollins. I actually will be, if I get to go down there, the plan is in November, I will be doing a 2-day retreat in November at that quilt shop to teach cut and chiseled. So I need to get it quilted so that I can get that quilt down there sometime in the next, couple weeks or so, and go ahead and set up some dates and get that going, get that process started, so she can get signups and I can get a quilting retreat class, whatever, scheduled and go from there. I'm super excited. I really do enjoy teaching. And teaching quilting is a lot easier for me than going back to teaching clothing, even though I am doing that as well. So yeah. How many of you guys sew clothes in addition to quilting? Is it something that you've ever done? Is it something that you like to do? Something that you avoid like the plague? What is your take on making clothes? Because I have a follow-up question after that. All right. And in case you wonder what I'm doing, I'm going to show you. For those who were here earlier and were seeing it, what I'm doing when I go to line my triangles up so that I make sure that I'm putting it in the right spot, I'm making sure that the point of my triangle is falling on the seam, that center seam of my pinwheel. Thankfully, my pinwheels have center seams, so I don't have to artificially create a center. So I'm just lining that point up with the center and making sure that the edge of my triangle is along my raw edge that I trimmed earlier. And I'm not worried about these dog ears. I don't have a guide on my foot, so my foot is not running into those dog ears, causing any problems. I will trim them off later, but there was no need to necessarily sit and cut all 84 blocks worth of dog ears off. So that would be 4 times 84, because that's how many dog ears there are on the full blocks. Sherry says that she started with garment sewing, as did I. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm a first generation quilter in my family. Everybody else who sews or sewed in my family made garments. One of my late grandmother made heirloom garments, so she did smocking, hand embroidery, all of that kind of stuff. She made a lot of like christening gowns and fancy smocked garments, like that kind of stuff. So I do have a little bit of a love for heirloom sewing from her, just because I find the techniques fascinating. Sherry, Katie is happy to see you. She's saying hi. It's like she's screaming across the room like she just saw you. I love it. I love it. My other grandmother worked for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, and she became a union representative when I was a teenager, I think, or a young child maybe. But I remember for sure, I know she was a union rep when I was a teenager. And so she taught me how to make garments. Sherry says that she is a first generation quilter as well. That's exciting. That's exciting. My mom made, what did my mom make for me? She made Halloween costumes, but it was more the costumes for school plays. I was a pilgrim one year in a school play, so I had to have a pilgrim costume. So for, I think, 3 years, I was a pilgrim for Christmas, or for Halloween. Katie says that her maternal grandmother made quilts, but not her mother, which you kind of find odd. I do not find that odd, Katie. Sewing kind of skips a generation frequently. Now I will say this. Okay, I do have to back up a little bit. My mom's grandmother, who she was raised by for many years, did quilt, and she had a frame, so she'd pull the frame down off the side of the wall or off the ceiling or whatever and quilt during the winter. But that was the only person that quilted in the entire family, and she never taught my mom to quilt. Like, it wasn't, my grandmother did not teach my mom anything about quilting. It was just something that my grandmother did, or my great-grandmother did. But this great-grandmother had passed long before I was born, so I never got a chance to meet her, and we do not have any quilts remaining that I am aware of that belong to her. Anything that would have been available was lost in the fire. Rayanne says, you do a good job teaching quilting. Thank you. Thank you. Katie says, Tammy, she sewed by making us cute little dresses, but she didn't make quilts. Yeah. So my late grandmother made me a lot of dresses growing up. My other grandmother, the one that taught me to sew, she made formal dresses for me. Everything else she bought, but formal dresses she made. When I was in first grade, I was homecoming candidate for my first grade class, and the blue poofy dress that I wore, my grandmother made. It was poofy. It had tulle. It had sequins. It had not just tulle. It had organza. Like, it had a lot of stuff going on, guys. It was over the top, but my grandmother made it. Sherry says my daughter is not interested in sewing or quilting. Says she doesn't have the patience. That's okay. How old is your daughter, Sherry? My stepdaughter does not really seem to want to learn to quilt or sew either. So don't take offense by that. I think it does skip a generation for a lot of families. So your daughter may never want to learn. She may come up in 10, 15 years and decide she wants to learn. And she might not. Susie says, don't make as many clothes as I used to. I made a couple wedding dresses. Really had fun doing them. Wedding dresses are fun. They absolutely are fun. I've made one wedding dress, and although it is a lot of work, I would do it again. My husband and I have talked about doing like a rededication kind of thing and inviting our friends. She's 50. Yeah, she's probably not going to learn. Does she have a daughter or son that might want to learn? Because that would be where the next generation would be. Oh. Yeah. I picked up sewing and just kind of ran with it. Like, I have loved it from day one. Yeah, see, right? Sherry says her grandkids are more interested. Yeah, that's where it is. Just skip your daughter, go to the grandkids. See, my mom knows how to sew. She doesn't enjoy it. She has a good sewing machine now. But, I mean, this was her Christmas present last year. Like, a good sewing machine. Like, a really good sewing machine. And, guys, I don't think she's sewn one complete project on it. I think she wanted to be interested in it, so she would share that with me. But she's not quite interested in it. Sherry says, I have 6 grandsons. There is nothing wrong with guys learning to quilt. You can ask Rob at Quilting in the Man Cave. You can ask Sean, guy who sews. You can ask Russ at Quilt Meets World. You can ask Ricky Timms, who is a very famous quilter. There is nothing wrong with guys sewing. George Siciliano. He's a former Marine, and he's my grandpa's age. Like, he's old. But he's got some impressive designs. Little bitty pieces. It's just so inspiring. And some of the guys who sew, I will put it this way. There's more guys who sew for precision than they sew for just sewing. And it's amazing. Oh, Ian as well. Ian at Off Kilter Crafter Ian. Yeah, he's a quilter too. So, yeah, there's plenty of guys who sew. Susie says, my great aunt hand sewed and hand quilted. She said the sewing machine wasted thread. Okay, Susie, she's not technically wrong, because we do waste thread. But, oh, it's so much faster. You can get stuff done. Sherry says, I have one that is 20 and one at a sewing machine. Perfect. That is where it's at. I picked up sewing when I was 8. I absolutely loved sewing. I sewed doll clothes. I didn't know about quilting. I never made my dolls blankets. If I had known about quilting, I would be even more knee deep in quilting and scraps and all of that than I am now. Like I would I would have had so many years. I did not start quilting until my son was born, and I was needing to put him in daycare, and they told me I needed to bring him a blanket. Like he needed a blanket for daycare. Guys, you never tell someone who can sew that their child needs a blanket, because their first thought is, okay, well, you know, if I go to Walmart and spend $20 on this cheap blanket, that my son, you know, won't feel as loved as he would if I made him one. That is like so so unfair. It's so unfair. That's where I started quilting. I decided that I could make my son something that would be better for him than what I could buy at the local stores. And so I needed to make him a blanket, and I made him a quilt. My first quilt was something for my son to have at daycare. That is the whole reason that I started quilting. And I found that it was so much easier to make. Even the blanket that the quilt that I really screwed up on, it was so much easier for me than to work on clothes. And it didn't matter how well it fit because he could still use it. And yeah, a quilter was born the day that they told me my son needed a blanket for daycare. That is my story. He is 19 now. So that story started about 19 years ago. This winter will be 19 years. Because he started daycare in December? Yeah, I think December. After he was born. So, yeah, 19 years this December that I have been quilting in one shape, form, fashion, or another. And no, I did not hit the ground running. My first ex-husband, my son's dad, asked me to make him a quilt that I was in over my head for. There was no way I had the skills for it. I didn't know what I was doing in the quilting world. I came from the sewing world where you had a 5/8 inch seam, maybe 3/8 inch seam. I didn't know that what this 1/4 inch seam thing was. I did not know quilt math. I did not know any quilt math. I did not know how to join triangles and what kind of seam allowance you lose when you do triangles. That it was a sampler, so every block was different. Guys, I did not know what I was getting into with that. I never finished that one. That one never got done. And I don't have the fabric for it anymore or the pictures of it, I don't believe. If I ever come across a picture of it, I will save it, print it out, make it larger so I can see it. I will redesign that quilt, and I will eventually make that quilt. Not because I'm going to give it to my ex-husband, but solely to say that I have never decided to make a quilt that I did not finish. That would be my longest standing UFO if I still had the fabric for it. I don't have the fabric for it anymore. The fabric that he chose for it. The one that you guys see on this wall here, that was a project from 2011. It should have been finished in 2012. So that is my longest standing UFO. That I actually have fabric and supplies to complete. None of my others, I don't have the fabrics, I don't have kits, I don't have any of the other stuff that goes with them. This is the longest standing one. I have some other UFOs that we'll pull out in 2025. But that's my longest one. I'm getting this stacked down, you guys. Do you do this too? Like if you've got a quilt that has a lot of the same kind of block, do you chain piece everything? Or do you do a few at a time and stop, and do a few at a time and stop? I am definitely a chain piecer. If there's something that I can chain piece, you better believe I'm going to chain piece it. This is 84 plus 48, so my math is fuzzy. 132 blocks. Does that sound right? 84 and 48, or something like that. Am I right on the number of blocks? Anybody who has a calculator, 84 plus 48. Tell me how many blocks I'm doing. I mean, 48 of them are half blocks, but the 84 are full ones. Once I get these done, I will go ahead and get off of here. And I will start getting these pressed and then getting the sashing on and go from there. I will get one press before I get off of here so you guys can see what the sashing is going to look like against this. Joyce and Judy both say they chain piece. 132, Judy says. Thank you. Yes. So 132 blocks. And we are going to hope that I did all my math right, and that is all I need. If not, I do have more fabric. We did manage to get more of the dark green that I was running out of. So I do have plenty of it, or enough of it, rather, to finish it up. The lady at the quilt shop was out of the green, the dark green. And so when my client went to pick some up, the fabric that he picked up was a little bit too lime greeny. It was not the right shade. So when I went back to the quilt shop, I showed her what I had and what I was trying to match, and she's like, oh, well, I might have some of that at home, but obviously they didn't have any on the shelf. They will reorder that fabric, but it will take a little bit of time. And she's like, but I should have it at home. And I was like, okay. And so I came back the next day, but she said she would bring it. And guys, she had the fabric. And she's like, how much do you need? I said, well, I was going to get an eighth of a yard because that'll give me plenty to cut what I need. And so she cut the eighth of a yard off and she just gave it to me. Laura says, I like to chain piece. Awesome. Yeah, so my local quilt shop lady happened to have some of the fabric at home and it's in her personal stash. So she handed it to me. I was like, you are amazing. Thank you so much. This is being a rock star. Oh, yay! Congratulations, Rob. You guys put congratulations in the chat. He says, it's done, except for the label. That is fine. That label can wait till tomorrow if need be. That's exciting. Oh, thank you, Glenda. She says hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Yes, please, guys. That thumbs up or thumbs down. If you don't like me, that's fine. I don't mind. I will not be offended. But that thumbs up or thumbs down does tell YouTube you are engaging with the content here. So I do appreciate all the thumbs up or thumbs downs that you guys give me. So I appreciate it a lot. And yes, please cheer Rob on. That is amazing. He got his quilt hand bound. That's exciting. We have been waiting for this stained glass quilt to be done for a while, and we've been excitedly waiting, impatiently waiting, pins and needles waiting, stabbing ourselves with those pins and needles waiting. Judy says that would be the first quilt shop I would definitely do business with. That was great of them. Yes, right? Absolutely. I was floored. And so when I told her, I was like, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Like, I'm like, you rock. And she's like, no, you rock. Because she's seen some of the stuff that I've done, guys. And she wants to support me. Like, that was her reasoning for giving me the fabric, is because she's like, you do way better work than I do. And I'm like, how do I respond to that? I was so stunned. If I had not been so tired from my infusion, I would have reached around and hugged her and everything else. But she was absolutely fantastic. That was awesome. Everybody saying congrats to Rob. Yes. That's a huge accomplishment, getting that done today. So he's been sitting here listening in to all of you and listening to me ramble. I'm good at rambling. I'm so good at it. So good at it. I know I'm kind of crazy sometimes. I was watching Kathy over at My Hobby Home last night. Was it last night? No. Yesterday morning, I think. I was catching up on one of her videos. And you guys, I had to pause and go get my husband. And I was like, "Can you come watch what I'm watching?" And he's like fussing at me a little bit, like, you know, grumbling that he has to get up and like come in here and come watch what I'm watching. And like, why is he having to come watch some quilting something or other? But I rewound the video just like a little bit and played it. And Kathy over at My Hobby Home was talking about my channel, you guys. Oh, good question, Laura. Rob, she is wanting to know, Laura's wanting to know what information you include on your labels. That's a very good question, Laura. So I had to rewind Kathy's video and get my husband in here. And so he comes in here and he's watching and listening. And he's heard Kathy before because I play her because she's got that wonderful Louisiana accent. And it is hard to hear that accent and not miss being in the Southeast for that. Like, I don't miss the humidity, I don't miss the heat, but I do miss the accent. Okay, Rob says he's headed out to a backgammon challenge with a friend. See you all soon. We will get that information from him about the label one way or the other, Laura. Don't worry. If he is already headed off, we will get it. We will get it. But she was talking about how much fun my channel is, and there's always banter going on, and she has a great time over here. And you guys, I'm like trying not to cry because I'm so like, I feel blessed. And my husband is like beaming from ear to ear. It was so good to see his reaction. He's like, she's talking about you. I was like, thank you. She is. Let's see. Rob says name, date, location, his name, and who it may be for. That is awesome. That's good. That's good information to have on the quilt. And that does help when it comes to if a quilt happens to get misplaced, or if you are entering it, you know, that your name, your information is on there. And then for posterity, like when we, you know, pick these quilts up in 20, 30 years, you know, how are we going to figure out who made it, where it was made, all of that kind of thing. So, you know, that's the other consideration. And that actually leads me to a random thought, you guys. And yeah, I'm good at random thoughts. Okay, so you know how let me back up before I start stuttering, because I am about to start stuttering. Okay, so quilt appraisers and those who like help us determine the age and value of our quilts, they are basing their information off of, you know, the fabrics that are being used, the stitching that was done on the quilts, whether that was hand stitching or machine stitching or whatever. So they're able to give us an estimated date of when these quilts were made or done, completed, etc. Do you know the new problem that we've got now? I have fabric that is in my stash that is easily 10 years old. Charlotte has joined the chat. She says, hey, Tammy and everyone. Welcome in, Charlotte. Welcome, welcome. So I've got fabric that is in my stash that is easily 10 years old. I know I have fabric that is 10 years old. I do probably have a couple of pieces that are closer to 20 to 25 years old. Okay? When I start making quilts, if I only use vintage fabric, so not within the last 5 years, so I use old fabric, 20 plus year old fabric. If I don't make a modern pattern, if I make a more traditional pattern that would be in line with the time frame of when that pattern would have come out or would have been a popular pattern, and match it with the fabric. Charlotte says, don't we all? About the fabric being 10 to 20 years old. So are we going to confuse a quilt appraiser if we are using vintage fabric and we use a vintage pattern and we use vintage techniques? Would you think we could confuse a quilt appraiser? Because if you take it and have it appraised, thank you, Katie. She says, y'all hit that thumbs up like button, please, to help Tammy out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I do forget. You and Glenda are great about helping me remember to remind people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So if we use vintage fabric and we use a vintage pattern, not something like new that is popular right now or something like that. We use vintage, techniques, like nothing like a new technique or something like that, that it's very obvious that it's not something that would have been done around the time that that fabric was made. Do you think we could confuse a quilt appraiser? So maybe I make a quilt next month. Yeah, I'm not going to make one next month that's going to do this. But let's say I make a quilt next month here in 2024 that is using all vintage, and I'm using some kind of vintage pattern that was popular in, say, the 90s, so 30 years ago, and I follow the pattern the way it was written back in the 90s. Don't update anything. I get everything quilted and assembled. Good question, Rayanne. She says, do you think they would consider the thread? I don't know. If you got to think about what thread they would use too 30 years ago. So like 30 years ago, like in the 90s, what threads were available. So if we Googled what threads were available, because Google is our friend now, like if we stayed with whatever was the most popular options of thread or something that was in that thread line, I wonder if the thread, if they would consider it. Because, then if the quilt has been stored very well, it could just be stored in impeccable conditions. Okay, that works. Katie says that she's got to move to the living room to cut strips for tonight while she watches me. Thank you. Charlotte says, I hope that wouldn't confuse an appraiser. See, that's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if it would. Like if I were to dig through my fabrics, I can pick out some vintage fabrics right now. Like just looking at them, I can pick out some vintage. Like I know some of them that I bought, but I know some of them that I have in my stash that are 90s. They're 90s. And then I probably have some in fat quarters at least that are even smaller than that. Or that are older than that. So I probably do have enough vintage fabrics to pull off the vintage pattern and vintage fabrics part. And then I just would need to figure out what thread to use to make it look a little bit more vintage. And see if we could have them date the quilts, run it through the washer, 4 or 5 times, make it look a little bit like it's been handled for a bit. But I wonder if that would confuse an appraiser. You guys, I am so going to be on this train of thought now for the next 6 hours. I'm not going to be able to watch a crime documentary and sew ever again because I'm going to be thinking about possible ways to to treat an appraiser like they are a police officer that's investigating a crime. And I've got to figure out if I can confuse the appraiser. I'm so awful. I'm so awful. I'm sorry. I'm a bad influence. You guys don't need to be watching me. I'm a bad influence. Oh. My husband loves true crime series, shows, and all of that. Like, we've got one on Netflix that we've watched a couple episodes, but it's more his thing than mine. And like I've stopped watching that one. I go for the dramatized ones, the ones like, you know, that are staged and they're Hollywood, you know, that kind of stuff. Like Law and Order, you know, Law and Order staged. I mean, it's based off of real crimes. Like, they don't, that you can't make some of this stuff up, but some of it they do. I mean, a lot of it's just written in. So I tend to go for that kind of crime show more than the true crime stuff like my husband does, but he's a former police officer. So he got to live it. So that's more his speed than mine. But I'm going to think of a quilt appraiser now as a criminal. Judy says, gotta go now. Car show will be starting soon. Absolutely, Judy. Enjoy the car show. That's going to be exciting. Take pictures. Take a quilt and take pictures of your quilts. I know. Random thoughts. Random thoughts, guys. We are almost done with the stack. Can you believe it? 130. Let's see what she told me. Is 132? Let's see. She told me. I know she did. 132. Yep. 132 blocks. Almost done. Rayanne says that she's got half a dozen quilt tops that are over 50 years old that she's ended up with after her two grandmothers and her aunt had passed. Oh, and they're not quilted? They're just tops? You have got some stuff on your hands then. That's a lot. I mean, half a dozen's 6, but you know, that's still a lot. And then being over 50 years old, that's impressive. My Dreamsicle quilt is still on the plans. So my Dreamsicle vintage one. How's the thumb doing? It's okay. I did take my hand out of the brace yesterday when I was on the live with Mona and Deb. The brace was just rubbing too much. I was trying to do too much rotation. Just like rotating my hand back and forth too much. So my wrist from the other side was hurting, and then up here where the brace rubs was rubbing really bad. So I took it off for a little bit, and when I've looked at my wrist since, it does seem like the cyst is going down, so it is helping. It's just not there yet, so I definitely need to keep it stabilized as much as possible. Play nice, play by the rules, all that kind of stuff. Thankfully, it's not hurting like it was initially. Rayanne says that they are just the tops. She'll have to post them on Facebook. Yes, you will. Absolutely. We have one more show and tell for this throw size lap size quilt giveaway in October. So you got to get it in before October 1st, I believe. Is that the date we're looking at? Let's see. October. Well, hang on. Yes, October 1st. October 1st is the last show and tell of this 6-month round. So if you want to get something in and be entered for the drawing for the lap quilts, you do need to get entered in soon. You can either email me or you can be in the Facebook group and submit it and just say show and tell. Charlotte says, I'm glad resting it has helped somewhat. I am too. It's definitely a pain to rest, though. It is not an easy rest option. I woke up about 3 or 4 times last night with it hurting, and it's not hurting where the cyst is on my wrist. It's not hurting here, and it's not hurting in my thumb. It's hurting here where my wrist is bracing or is resting. I have a bony wrist, apparently. So I just have I have very little padding in my wrist to begin with. And so my pain signals with my fibromyalgia are heightened when I have an injury or problem or something. So my body is picking up on every little possible thing it can just because it can. I mean, it is just because it can. It's not doing it because I'm further injured or anything else. It's just being a pain to be a pain. So, but I will be glad when they say I can stop wearing the brace. And if we end up needing to do surgery, then, it is what it is. But I'm going to hope we can avoid that. I would rather not do any permanent changes to my wrist if I don't have to. Let's see. Charlotte says, yes, the pressure on certain spots can really be an irritant. Yeah. There's the pressure, and then even though I've changed out, so these braces come with an elasticized little covering thing that you can put your arm in. And it kind of works like a knitted sleeve. It was fantastic and great for cushioning for a little while. And it's better cushioning than the t-shirt material that's in there now. However, the problem is that the knit material apparently also has nylon. Chloe is here. Welcome in, Chloe. Welcome to the chat, sweetheart. Glad you made it. So while the knit material helped with the cushioning, the nylon material in the nylon or stretchy material or whatever it was in the knit material was irritating my skin. And so I was itching from the knit material. So I can't win for losing. So we cut the knit material out, and my friend hand sewed the t-shirt material in place so that I don't have to necessarily drop everything to get the t-shirt material to go where it's supposed to go. So when I get ready to retire the brace for a bit, so maybe I won't ever need it again, I will take it and hand wash the t-shirt material, and I will air dry it with the t-shirt material hanging as loosely as it can, so that way, I can reuse the brace if I need to. If I had time to leave it out right now, I would probably do it this weekend, but I may not have a chance to. Chloe says, cleaning out toys, too much work. Glad I made it. Yes, absolutely. You need a break from cleaning out toys. You need a break from that. What I would do when my son was little is I would give him 3 boxes, and it's not the 3 boxes you're thinking of. I would give him 3 boxes of the toys that he was allowed to keep, and everything that he was going to keep had to fit in those 3 boxes. And I already had a place for all of the toys. He just had to decide what he was keeping. And anything that didn't make it into that box all just got scooped up and went straight to donation. The first time it happened, he was very distraught because he accidentally didn't put some toys in there that he wanted. However, he quickly learned that if they don't end up in the boxes Mom gives you, they don't get kept, and therefore they do go by. Chloe says smart, right? So, he's got a limited amount of space, and if he wants to keep it, it has to fit in that box. And if it doesn't, he has to get special permission to keep it. One time he tried to be smart. Gotta love the smart kids, right? He tried to be smart, and he tried to say, well, you know, what am I going to do with my laptop from school? Well, school issues the laptop. You're keeping that. Well, what am I going to do about the mouse? I said, well, if you want the mouse, you got to put it in the box. He wanted to try to get me to agree that everything that went with the laptop that he liked to use, not had to have, but liked to have, needed to get a free pass and not have to go in the box. It's like, nope, that's not going to work. All right. Let me see. That was husband. Make sure. Let's see. Okay, that's it. So we'll know here in just a minute. All right. And so once I get these done, once I get done trimming these, I will take a break. So you guys are getting to see these, but I'm going to get one press. So let me get this iron turned back on, because I'm going to show you what this is going to look like once it is completely done. Well, next step. Not completely done, but next step. We are going for next step. Let's see. I'm glad you guys were here to do this with me today. So glad. So by tomorrow night, when you guys see me for Sunday night after sunsets, or after sunset Sundays, sorry. I can't even think of the names of my own lives, right? When you guys see me for after sunset Sunday, this will be already sashed, and we're probably going to be putting borders on. That's my goal, is to already be putting borders on. If they're not already done before the live, then I'll be putting borders on then. If it is already done, it's going to be up on this board behind me. So, or I may hang it on the bookshelf behind me, because one of these is going to be really taller than the other. So I am looking to have these sashed by then. 132 blocks, guys. The hardest part was getting these pinwheels, because they take a little bit of extra finagling and working and maneuvering and all of that. We are still not through the 84. We're still getting down to we're still in the full blocks so far. All right, here's the last of them. All right, that's the last of the full blocks. So now we've got the half ones. And there's only 48 of these, so there's half of what there is on the other. I think, no, half 84, half of 84 is 42, so a little bit more than half. I remember I had to make 24 full blocks and then cut and rip them to make them in half. And I did go back, once I ripped these pinwheels in half along the bias edges, I did go ahead and press them, and I also took the extra time to sew the seam back together where I had ripped them, because when you sew a pinwheel, you're going to tack down some seam allowances, so when you rip them apart like this, to make these on point half pinwheels, you're going to end up with a little bit of extra seam that's ripped. So I did go back and sew every last one of these 48 half pinwheels. I sewed the seam back together so that I wasn't going to run into problems with them coming apart while I'm handling them. I did not want them to come apart while trying to handle them. I may come back and even add basting stitches once these blocks are done to prevent these edges from stretching. Alright, so this is the half block. So the pinwheel was ripped. You can see the little extra bit right here. The pinwheel is ripped along the bias. So these are bias right here. So adding those basting stitches in will hold it in place. And here is a full block. so far. That's what we've got so far. So let me press this out real quick. And I probably will come through and square all of these up because I've got these dog ears hanging off. And I want to make sure I have clean edges and everything's going to come out the same size across the board. So my next step will actually be, once I get done pressing, I will go ahead and trim all of these. And then this is the next fabric going on. So we will have the gray sashing going in place. And I don't have to worry about, I'll show you right here. So all of my sashing pieces are the size of the block. They're not extra. But I'm going to be adding triangles to the middles out here. So I don't need to square those. Like I don't need this because I'm going to be trimming that off later. So that is the next steps. So you guys, when you guys see this again tomorrow night, I will have added these, and I have this lime green, this light green, that is going to go as the outside triangles. And so that is the blocks. So that will not be that hard. So I've just got some pressing and trimming and then a whole bunch more sewing to do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get off of here, you guys. We've already been on here quite a bit, and I do need to go take care of the dog for a minute and take care of the husband, all of that kind of stuff. So I will see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, spending some Saturday morning with me. I really appreciate your time and being patient with me and chatting. If you've not hit that thumbs up, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. You do have to subscribe in order to chat in most of my lives. If you do want to be part of the retreat coming up at the end of September, you do have to chat in at least a live long enough for me to recognize your name in order to be part of that Zoom retreat. So we will open up registration on Tuesday night. So be looking forward to Tuesday night. If you've not already put a mark to notify yourself for Tuesday night, go ahead and do that so that way you don't miss out on any important information. I will see you guys later. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night for sunsets. All right, bye.